Welcome to Lost in Revision. All of our content is public domain, literature, fairy tales, and folklore. All of our music is by Nathan Hubble and is used with his permission. Thanks, and enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of Lost in Revision, featuring The Three Little Pigs, brought to you by Aliens in Class Warfare, I guess?
The number 3.
No, you're right. The number 3, brought to you by the number 3. It's much better culturally. I'm here, as always, with two of my favorite humans, Angel and Polly. How are you today, Angel?
Well, I'm awake, which is
I'm not.
which is quite the achievement for a teacher with only a week left before winter break. I'm telling you, the 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas break are just a gauntlet of stamina and insanity.
And pointless testing, apparently.
Yeah, maybe that's always. So, how about you, Polly?
Well, Peanut Gallery and I celebrated 25 years last Tuesday, so happy anniversary, Peanut Gallery.
Well, congratulations.
Wow, that is seriously amazing. Well done. I don't know many people who have managed to live together for 25 years all in a row. That's a major accomplishment.
We have been through some stuff, too.
Yeah, you have. I was there for lots of it. I have some very exciting news to share. I had to add a section to our show notes to shout out to our new patrons.
Woo!
I know, right? We have 2 new patrons. Rachel B was our very first patron that is not related to us. So hi, Rachel. We love you.
Wow, so they don't have to like us. Then they still do anyway.
Right?
Dude, we do love Rachel. She's family, kind of.
She is.
Adopt her.
I was adopted by her family, though. So our second patron is Raina L. And hi, Raina. We love you. Our patrons are the most awesomest people ever.
Absolutely. The most awesomest.
The most.
Yes. Oh, wow. Thank you, Raina. You are made of awesome.
I would also like to mention that since I actually buckled down and updated all of our content, our free membership level on Patreon has been growing. So hello to all of our free members. We truly appreciate your support and welcome to the family.
So what's the family getting for Christmas?
Oh, for Christmas, the Nutcracker read by Polly.
Yay. You know, this sort of thing kind of inspires me to create some interesting perks for Patreon members that I hadn't put energy into yet.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully this break will give me time to get a couple of them finished. Cue sweet, mysterious author grin.
So tell us a little bit about the history and culture of this story.
It is thought that the origin of the story was published in England in 1853 and was about 3 pixies and a fox rather than 3 piggies and a wolf. The pixies in the wood and stone houses fall to the clever fox, but the one in the iron house outwits, outlasts, and outplays the fox. J.F. Campbell changed the pixies to piggies in 1860 in his story Tiny Pig, where 7 pigs are hunted by a fox and all but the smallest fall prey.
An iron house does not seem like the best place for a pixie to live.
I know. I noticed that the pixie lives in an iron house, so...
Yeah.
It's not a good place for Faye.
These are like super uber pixies or something.
Right? And they built the house themselves? Like,
no, they stole it.
They stole it and insulated it really well?
Obviously. They traded it. It was a fair trade.
It was definitely
given to them, gifted.
Yes. So one common theme that I notice time and again in fairy tales is the underdog winning. You can for sure tell who wrote these stories, culturally speaking.
Yeah. Well, history is recorded by the winners. Fairy tales are recorded by
everyone.
People.
The not winners.
But when the world keeps trying to chop you up into tiny pieces and have you for dinner, It helps you venture out into the world if you feel like there are others who understand the challenges you're facing. So, underdogs unite.
Amen.
Though now I absolutely must go read the version with the pixies.
I know, me too.
William Owens compared Campbell's tiny pig story to an Anglo-Saxon tale, The Three Blue Pigs, in 1877, and claimed that it came from an African tale, but he gave no citations to back up the claim, and Thomas Frederick Crane, a collector of fairy tales of the time, thought he was full of it and found no evidence to support the assertion.
Because heaven forbid indigenous cultures have something nice.
I know, right?
Well, as we've started to see, these fairy tale themes seem to pop up in cultures all around the world, and sometimes it's difficult to see any cultural connection between them. However, since most fairy tales have everyday events and common people at their core, it kind of makes sense that similar story themes would show up among the working class of any and all cultures.
True. American author Joel Chandler Harris used a wolf instead of a fox in The Story of the Pigs from 1883, where five pigs are hunted.
That's a whole different story.
Not pugs. Where 5 pigs are hunted and eaten by Brer Wolf, and only the smallest and cleverest pig escapes. So it's like Tiny Pig. He revisited the theme later with Brer Wolf and Brer Rabbit in The Awful Fate of Mr. Wolf. Now, Harris emulated African storytelling styles in his stories on purpose, which is evidence that Owens may have had a valid claim.
Color me unsurprised.
I probably heard The Awful Fate of Mr. Wolf before I ever heard The Three Little Pigs. Now that I think about it, the Silly Symphonies version that I saw in the library when I was in elementary school is probably the first time I saw the traditional Three Little Pigs.
So is The Awful Fate of Mr. Wolf written from the wolf perspective?
Well, not really. No, since the story ends with his hide hanging on Brer Rabbit's back porch.
Oh, I need to go read that. I am surprised I haven't before. I thought I had read all of the Brer Rabbit stories.
I've had the song from the Merry Melodies version stuck in my head since I was like 4. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big
bad wolf, the big bad wolf.
La 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 la.
Yes, it has been on a loop in my brain since you announced we were doing this story.
So, Crane published another appearance of the Big Bad Wolf in the variant The Three Goslings in 1885, collected from Dom Giuseppe Bernoni's 1875 Italian publication. And finally, we end up with the version we all know and love from England via James Orchard Halliwell in 1886, Joseph Jacobs in 1890, and Andrew Lang in 1906.
I'm only just starting to realize that Andrew Lang did as much, if not more, story collecting and publishing than the Grimm brothers. But I never recall hearing his name before we started doing this podcast, whereas the Grimm name felt like it was on all of my storybooks as a kid.
You see, the Grimms put their name on the book. It was the Grimm's Tales, Andrew Lang is better known by his books, the Green Fairy book, the Red Fairy book, etc., which don't bear his name in the title. To be honest, this story exists as widespread as Cinderella. I mean, the more you look, the more versions you're going to find. In Africa and the Middle East, sheep or goats take place of the pigs. In Morocco, humans are the protagonists, and they face off ghouls in houses of honey and date paste, because building a house out of honeycomb or date paste is a good idea.
Oh.
In the end, the antagonist always ends up boiled in a stew.
Boiled in stew is good.
Well, the structure of this story almost invites revision to include something specific to your own cultural experience. I mean, the repetition of 3 is a core story structure. Then you add in a sinister character that you can give them descriptions and behavior of people who are making your life miserable. It becomes even more fun to then make the innocent characters behave like people you want to be sympathetic and make all kinds of low-key political statements with the story.
That is so true. Almost all the media that I've seen when looking online, the songs and the old cartoons, they couch the story in class consciousness rather than prey versus predator.
All this talk of stew and honey and dates has me hungry.
Food. I've almost been awake long enough to actually eat.
Same.
I've been awake for a long time.
Well, let's move on to the reading of the story, and we can go have a snack during our break, and then we can discuss it after. Polly, you have to stay here and read those.
Snackies!
The Story of the Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, when pigs spoke rhyme, and monkeys chewed tobacco, and hens took snuff to make them tough, and ducks went quack, quack, quack-o. There was an old sow with 3 little pigs, and as she had not enough to keep them, she sent them out to seek their fortune. The first that went off met a man with a bundle of straw, and said to him, "Please, man, give me that straw to build me a house," which the man did, and the little pig built a house with it. Presently came along a wolf, and knocked at the door, and said, little pig, let me come in." To which the pig answered, "No, no, by the hair of my chinny chin chin." The wolf then answered to that, "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew his house in, and ate up the little pig. The second little pig met a man with a bundle of furs, and said, "Please, man, give me that furs to build a house," which the man did, and the pig built his house. Then along came the wolf, and said, little pig, let me come in." "No, no, by the hair of my chinny chin chin." "Then I'll puff, and I'll huff, and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed, and he puffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and at last he blew the house down, and he ate up the little pig. The third little pig met a man with a load of bricks, and said, "Please, man, give me those bricks to build a house with." So the man gave him the bricks, and he built his house with them. So the wolf came, as he did to the other little pigs, and said, little pig, let me come in." "No, no, by the hair of my chinny chin chin." "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." Well, he huffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, but he could not get the house down. When he found that he could not, with all his huffing and puffing, blow the house down, he said, little pig, I know where there's a nice field of turnips." "Where?" said the little pig. "Oh, in Mr. Smith's home field. And if you will be ready tomorrow morning, I will call for you, and we will go together and get some for dinner." "Very well," said the little pig, "I will be ready. What time do you mean to go?" "Oh, at 6 o'clock." Well, the little pig got up at 5, and got the turnips before the wolf came, which he did about 6. And who said, "Little pig, are you ready?" The little pig said, "Ready? I have been and come back again, and got a nice pot full for dinner." The wolf felt very angry at this, but thought that he would be up to the little pig somehow or other, so he said, "Little pig, I know where there's a nice apple tree." "Where?" said the pig. "Down at Mary Garden," replied the wolf, "and if you will not deceive me, I will come for you at 5 o'clock tomorrow and get some apples." Well, the little pig bustled up the next morning at 4 o'clock, and went off for the apples, hoping to get back before the wolf came, but he had farther to go, and had to climb the tree, so that just as he was coming down from it, he saw the wolf coming, which, as you may suppose, frightened him very much. When the wolf came up, he said, "Little pig, what? Are you here before me? Are they nice apples?" "Yes, very," said the little pig. "I will throw you down one." And he threw it so far that, while the wolf was gone to pick it up, the little pig jumped down and ran home. The next day the wolf came again and said to the little pig, "Little pig, there's a fair at Shanklin this afternoon. Will you go?" "Oh, yes," said the pig, "I will go. What time shall you be ready?" "At 3, said the wolf. So the little pig went off before the time as usual, and got to the fair, and bought a butter churn, which he was going home with, when he saw the wolf coming. Then he could not tell what to do, so he got into the churn to hide, and by so doing turned it round, and it rolled down the hill with the pig in it, which frightened the wolf so much that he ran home without going to the fair. He went to the little pig's house, and told him how frightened he had been by a great round thing which came down the hill past him. Then the little pig said, "Ha! I frightened you then. I had been to the fair, and bought a butter churn, and when I saw you I got into it, and rolled down the hill." Then the wolf was very angry indeed, and declared that he would eat up the little pig, and that he would get down the chimney after him. When the little pig saw what he was about, he hung on the pot full of water, and made up a blazing fire, and just as the wolf was coming down, took off the cover, and in fell the wolf. So the little pig put on the cover again in an instant, boiled him up, and ate him for supper, and lived happily ever after.
And we are back. So, what is your favorite part or version of this story?
Longtime listener Casey wanted to hear Green Jelly's heavy metal version, Three Little Pigs. But sad, copyrights.
Womp
Hi,
womp.
Casey. Thanks for the good music. I did give it a listen, and it was pretty entertaining.
Oh, that does remind me of the artist that I found on TikTok. His TikTok is very, very Vinny, and he has a song out called Big Bad Wolf, and it's about the three little pigs, and it includes the class consciousness that I was talking about earlier. I included a link in the notes for you two to check him out, and listeners can search Very, Very Vinny on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. Check out Vinny Marchi on YouTube if you don't use TikTok.
Oh, yeah. He's everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a bop. My favorite version of the story is The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolf, as told to John Sheska. I was tickled the other day to see that my baby nephew has this book, which I also enjoyed as a child. It was in a picture of him sitting on his coffee table. Knowing how my mother has redistributed our childhood library to her grandchildren, it may be the exact copy.
Oh, wow. Wait, is the true story the one where the wolf simply has a bad cold? If so, that one always made me laugh until I cried. It was so hilarious and ridiculous.
That's the one. I love it. In the Disney version, on the wall of the third pig's brick house is a picture of father and a picture of mother. Mother is a picture of a pig. Father is a picture of a string of sausages. That detail has always struck me as the most hilarious thing.
And surprisingly dark for Disney. I didn't notice that detail when I was little.
Disney had some really dark stuff back in the day.
Disney was amusingly dark in the early days.
Yeah.
Well, when I was little, I didn't notice the sausage. But then I noticed it when I was watching it with my kids when I was an adult. And I remember snickering and going, "Oh, that's just wrong."
But hilarious.
It is hilarious. I do remember the sausages in the picture. It is a special type of twisted humor that is perfectly in line with my own. My favorite part of all of these fairy tales is the turn-based combat aspect that they have. This and Three Billy Goats Gruff, etc., etc. They are like the martial arts films where they all take turns instead of just ganging up on someone.
You know, I love the false sense of accomplishment that turn-based combat gives, since in reality, it's really all supposed to be happening at once, but you get to sort of pause and think before you act. I mean, how awesome would that be to have that skill in real life?
That's a superpower.
Amen.
Kind of reminds me of that video where the bear climbs into the pig pen and the one little pig is just ignoring the big scary bear. And then another pig came out of the pig house and they both attacked the bear at once and had him scrambling for egress.
Was their house made out of bricks?
It was made out of wood. They had a shack. And the bear did not huff or puff. Well, he huffed and puffed trying to get out of that fence.
The bear doesn't have the lungs of a wolf.
You know, pigs might be cute, but they still have wild boar DNA in there somewhere.
Yeah, that wild boar isn't buried very deep either.
It's true. They even revert to having the bristles and tusks within a startlingly short time. Not descendants. The actual domesticated pigs become feral so fast and they just grow stuff randomly. So, what is your least favorite part or version?
Oh, there is a version from 1996 titled Three Little Pinks, which is a rather forced girl power version where three flower fairies have to paint flowers while a misogynistic gardener named Wolf tries to stop them. It does the feminist effort no favors.
That sounds terrible. I think I'm a little bit nauseous just listening to your description.
Yeah. You know, when I was little, it upset me very much that the pigs would get eaten when their houses weren't strong enough. I was really happy when I saw the version where they all managed to run away and seek shelter with their rich brother with the brick house. And then was horrified when they trapped the wolf in a pot of boiling water when he tried to come down the chimney, and then they ate the wolf. I was genuinely horrified. because at that point, I decided it was a story with no good guys. I was very insistent child that everyone in that story was bad.
Yeah, pigs are not good guys. Pigs are ruthless and hungry.
So am I.
So am I.
You were supposed to get a snack.
I need more snackies.
Bacon, 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 bacon.
So,
bacon,
what are
bacon,
the
bacon, bacon.
original lessons that you think this story was trying to convey?
Doing a job right might save your life. Also, rising early might give you a jump on your enemies.
Oh, I see what you're saying there. Okay. Those of you who don't know, we're recording this podcast much earlier in the day than usual.
Late in my day.
I think one of the original morals was you will get much farther in life if you take the time to plan and make sure you're using the right materials when you do a job. Cutting corners gets people killed. For a kid growing up in a construction family, this was a very key lesson to learn. Cutting corners on materials was considered as bad as a sin as breaking the 10 Commandments. And it seemed was also a sin that was committed as often as the commandments get broken.
Also, measure twice, cut once. It's another commandment.
That's an excellent commandment. My when I get rich dream is to have a house that's built with such luxuries as a minimum 4-foot overhead in all crawl spaces and attics, and electrical wiring run in conduit with minimum 1 circuit per room. My boobs won't even fit through the opening into the crawl space of my house. My boobs won't fit through the hole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a feeling you and I could do an entire other podcast about construction wish lists for the house we want to build someday. And the first thing on my list is nothing with water lines in the attic.
Who does that?
Everywhere in Texas and Florida, apparently. All of these neighborhoods. It's annoying. The first thing on my list, nothing with those water lines, because I don't know who decided to put water heaters and air conditioners in the attic. But I have actually had an air conditioner fall through the ceiling onto my dining room table when we lived in a rental house in Florida. It was absolutely horrifying. Ooh.
That is terrifying.
My air conditioner in Atlanta got clogged up in the condensation drain pipe and dripped water into the storage space and ruined all my childhood books. But I mean, at least it didn't fall in.
Ugh. Yeah, my air conditioner in Florida leaked through the ceiling if you turned it below 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Terrible planning of the depth of the condensation drain pan. And putting it in the ceiling? Come on.
It's just stupid.
Stupid. I want my rich people dream house to be insulated like a walk-in freezer.
Oh, amen.
As long as it's not airtight.
I've never been in a walk-in freezer that was airtight.
People die.
They do. They do.
Anyway. So, what do you think the modern lesson would be?
It's always worth it to use quality materials. Straw, honey, sticks, and dates are no good building materials, especially if you're trying to keep out wolves and foxes, or ghouls, or ants.
You know, oh God, please keep out the ants. You know, for this one, I'm going to refer to the most problematic version of this tale, because the moral in the awful fate of Mr. Wolf came down to the danger of pestering people. Just because someone seems smaller and weaker than you does not give you the right to make their life harder. It was very much a stay out of other people's business or you will get what's coming to you sort of story.
It's about biscuits and minding your own.
Yeah. Reference to that earlier statement about Mr. Wolf's pelt drying on Brer Rabbit's porch at the end of the story. Yeah. You really don't want to be on the receiving end when a weaker person has all they can take and decides to fight back.
Yeah.
Speaking of class warfare.
What's the saying? Like the quiet and carry a big stick saying.
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
That's it. From good old Teddy Roosevelt.
Speak softly.
Speak softly.
And carry a big stick. For the first time in Lost in Revision history, we are organized enough to have a full schedule of upcoming episodes. So I can actually tell you that next month we're going to be discussing Kisa the cat.
Does this mean we're grown-ups?
No. We are doing a theme if they haven't noticed yet, because this is just the third episode. It's the canine and feline year.
Right.
Yep, it is going to be alternating cats and wolves, which dogs are descended from, so cats and dogs. So, in closing, what do you think happened after the story?
Well, wolves are not solitary creatures. I mean, foxes are. But if we're sticking with the big bad wolf, wolves are not solitary creatures. I'm betting his pack came looking. But then again, pigs will eat anything, so it's unlikely anything was left to find but the
they
teeth.
would probably eat those too. They are really good for getting rid of evidence. Not that
Well,
I would know.
I hear in body disposal tips that you should pull the teeth and burn the hair because it's the only things the pigs won't eat.
Wow.
Oh, I had never heard that. I don't think it's
But
true.
that's
I think it's just because the teeth are used for identifying
Yeah.
people more often. That's probably what it is.
I think that perhaps the little pig with the brick house started a shelter for swine charity, much like Habitat for Humanity, and one house at a time began making sure that all the little pigs had decent homes that could keep them safe from the dangers of the world.
If this had been written in the U.S. instead of England, the story would have been very different. If something so small as a wolf can huff and puff your house down, ain't never standing up to a tornado.
Or a hurricane. You need cinder blocks and concrete to build for hurricanes.
Yeah. Houses in Puerto Rico that are not made of concrete are not even fully considered houses. Like when you're out house hunting, if there's a wooden house on the property, you're pretty much just paying for the land.
Next thing you know, they'll be building earthships. Well, I mean, that's kind of like hobbit holes, which are admittedly English.
So help me flesh this out, you guys, because I have a brain cannon of what happened after the story. The Three Little Pigs were getting free stuff from people consistently in like all of these stories. They just asked and people just gave them stuff. So I'm thinking that after the story, they continued their con artist type things in getting donations.
So the swine were swindlers? Were they swindlers?
Oh, nice.
Swindlers.
Nice.
They were swindlers. That's what I think happened after the story. Maybe they used their ability to get free stuff from people to fund the Habitat.
I was
for
about to say,
Swine
isn't that the way
shelter.
Habitat for Humanity works? So,
I mean, they get donations, but I'm thinking it more of like, I mean, Habitat for Humanity does it completely legally, and I don't think the pigs would.
you
do
think
that.
the pigs would
So-
cut corners?
Yeah.
So you're saying this is a swindlers for swine instead of a shelter for swine.
So then they're building like barns for bovines and no. Okay, shelters for swine is a front.
It's the front.
It's a front. Yeah.
Oh.
It's the shelters for swine is their money laundering operations. I mean, yes, they're building houses, but I mean, come on.
Okay.
I mean, that's not where the true profit lies.
So this is all a Ponzi scheme.
So then the third little pig is like, "You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding."
It's kind of like Elon's charity that doesn't actually give money, so now he has to pay a fine. Except run by the Three Little Pigs. I don't know. I bet you that they actually build enough houses to where they don't get a fine.
Yeah.
It's that they run a good operation, but I do think that
I don't know. Circling back to class
use-
warfare, I mean, when you have class warfare going on, you do often end up with a mafia.
I mean, you're not wrong. The entire reason that unions exist is to make it to where CEOs weren't in danger anymore. So, I mean, historically speaking, we've gone full circle with them trying to eliminate unions when unions were the protection in the first place. History is important, people. History is important.
And I picked this story 3 months ago. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right? You didn't know that people might actually develop a little bit of class consciousness at some point for reasons we will not expound on in this podcast.
So brought to you by the number 3 and the letter S for serendipity. And swine.
And shenanigans, which is what we are doing now. Thanks for joining us today. Check us out on Patreon. You can help us meet our small goal of breaking even and covering our expenses. Your support helps pay for all of the things that podcasting requires and helps keep this show alive and growing. If you can't afford to support us financially, go give us a good review, subscribe or follow, and share with your friends and family. Feel free to fact check us and offer suggestions to make our show better for you. You can also send us an email at lostinrevisionpodcast@gmail.com.
There's a lot more waiting for us all at the end of the road.